Thank you for being here. This is really cool. I kind of wanted to just do an informal Q&A. I don't have much to lecture you about. So why don't we just do that? And if anybody wants to just go up, I think there's a mic right here. So if anybody wants to ask any questions, we can just kind of get into it. Yep.
I'll take the first one. So Jesse, I know you do a lot of stuff with interviews and spreading the word, but what do you see kind of your place or a place of someone like you going forward, like beyond spreading information? You envision something more than that?
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot. The thing I don't want to be is some authoritative disseminator of information. Like I think in some ways, I don't think that should exist in UFO world. And I think when you break a few whistleblowers, people start to look to you as like, oh, like you're somehow like some official channel or like getting everything right. I'm sure there are things I've gotten very wrong and I'll continue to get wrong. And so I know I don't want that. And I think something more kind of community oriented. And I think about this a lot too. I think everybody throws around the word grifter in the UFO space. And I think, most people aren't grifters. I think they're just, kind of relaying their real experiences. But to the extent there is any sort of grift going, I think you're more of a grifter if you don't actually put resources towards some of these things. Like if you cover parapsychology. So I come from an investing background, and I invest in like normal technology. And I think if you invest in that stuff and then you cover like, you interview Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell on Psi, and like I'm not putting any resources towards that. Where it's like that's like the most important thing ever, or like some of this UFO stuff. I think to the extent we can kind of do some like nature of reality crowdfund or something, that would be really cool. Not nonprofit, but just to, the definition of a grift is you don't want things to collapse into truth, either to get debunked or to be verified, because you can kind of like keep talking and speculating as a result. And I just think this whole space is so under-resourced. So there's cognitive dissonance involved in kind of investing in prosaic startups and then covering kind of nature of reality. So to the extent we can kind of close that gap and do it in a more kind of community-oriented way, I think that would be really cool. You guys don't need to clap. But
Go for it. I have two questions. You can pick either or both. You've been doing tech due diligence on a lot of non-standard stuff for a long time. What's the question you're hoping we won't ask you, and what's the answer? And what is the question that we should be asking you if we were smarter?
Oh man, wow, that's a great question. I don't know. I mean, it would make me uncomfortable if you asked me something that I would want to say, and I think every reporter in UFO space experiences this. They probably know things that they want to say, but due to relationships where they're like, you have to, like, you could put my life in danger if you say this or whatever. And you just have to respect that. And I think in many ways you're sort of, you're offing yourself and you're sort of torpedoing disclosure if you just, destroy those relationships. Like, why would they ever go back to you if, So there are things like of that nature that, it sucks. But, and then what was the second thing? Oh man, I don't know. I mean, that was a good question. That was like an interesting gotcha question or something. But I don't know. I think in some ways this event is so cool. I think in some ways, because we live in this materialist reductionist paradigm, we're kind of stuck on first base and trying to prove to the outside world that this is real. And then I think and I need to be smarter on this too. Like, I don't think I'm very good at this. I think like belief in aliens is the only thing that gets you to God in today's kind of materialist reductionist paradigm. And so like we're talking about something that is scientifically repeatably, observable, but we don't really know what a lot of these beings are, what their intent are. They're probably factions. The good bad thing is probably this false dichotomy, based on kind of lower frameworks. And so I think the smarter, if we were all smarter, myself included, because I don't have like a good metaphysical, if anybody says they have like a clear metaphysical understanding of things, I usually think they're full of shit. And so I think, but asking those questions is really important. And so I think that's my poor answer to your question, is that you're really trying to figure that out, because, leading a life well lived is probably more important than just understanding ontological truth. And everybody here is probably like a hardcore truth seeker, like meaning seeker. But like, what about just leading a good life or whatever? And I think the alien thing is like the tip of the spear on like a larger ontology that, probably leads you there.
Hey, Jesse. It's Venus again. I'm from Mexico, so I've seen you having some interest in Jaime Maussan's stuff. I know it's very controversial, but I wanted to know if you have any comments on the Buga sphere and the mummies. I know Jaime Maussan is very controversial, but he has been a pioneer in the Mexican movement and has made a lot of people in Mexico interested in the topic.
I know he's extremely controversial. I love him. So I think he gets all sorts of stuff wrong. He has in the past, but he's a boldly stated old school guy, and I think he started covering Billy Myers actually in the 90s, and I think a lot of people here would probably hold the view that there's something to some of the early Billy Myers sightings, and there was something real about what was going on. Maybe some bad people inserted themselves into his life. Maybe there was some hoaxing going on towards the end. I don't know, but Jaime is awesome. I think he's really cool, despite he has gotten some stuff wrong for sure in the past. And then with these tridactyl mummies, that case broke my brain. It broke my spirit, and it broke my brain as well. And it's very it's the most confusing case ever. When you're in the room with the mummies, you're like, these are dead aliens. I mean, they're like 3 fingers, 3 toes, they look like gray, really weird orbital eye sockets, very elongated skulls. Apparently you don't see like stress fractures that you would see with traditional kind of skull elongation. Forensic experts, the chief medical examiner of Denver, this guy named John McDowell, who won the Grandwall Award, which is the top forensic sciences award in the country. The head of the Mexican medical forensics division, Jose Salze, and the Peruvian equivalent of John McDowell, all looked at these beings and were like, these were real organisms. So the idea that they're sort of a modern hoax came from, in my opinion, this guy Manuel Caceres, who created this art as a knockoff, and he was apprehended at the airport by the lead Peruvian prosecutor, and he had literally glued together like wooden stuff, like fake stuff or whatever. And this was ran by like AP and Reuters. Like they won't cover Malmgren, but they'll run with it. It's crazy. And then having said that, so that's my steel man of the case. My straw man is the DNA is very, very bad signal to noise ratio. Like we just need better DNA. I think the Masson camp is way too credulous on certain DNA readings. And the DNA reading that I trust says that it's probably more human than not. But then you look at the phenotypic, what it looks like, and and then there's actually a great UFO researcher, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, Steve Mera, who says that he tested 2 phalange bones of one of the bodies, and one came back male and one came back, female, like a modern human or whatever. So like all of this needs to be taken into account. My video is probably gonna, that's gonna be the conclusion. Like this broke my brain and my spirit. We need more resources, per what I was asked about earlier. Like let's just spend some money. It's the most interesting paleoarchaeological mystery. Let's spend some money to either debunk it or, corroborate it. So yeah, it's probably not the answer maybe you were looking for, but it's a confusing case.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess the Buga sphere. If you have any comments on the Buga sphere, they found in Colombia.
Oh, the Buga sphere. Yeah. So also, I'll just give you the fact pattern, and I won't draw a conclusion. I don't know. So this thing, you have like, I think 6 or 7 minutes of it flying around in Buga Colombia, has weird markings all over it, and it was given also to Jaime Maussan 2 days before I visited him, which is It's just so weird, like the how serendipitous all this is. I don't know. It seems to display some weird electromagnetic anomalies. I took a photo, or actually Amar from Yes Theory took a photo, sent it to Mario Woods, who's a famous UFO experiencer from 1977 Ellsworth Air Force Base, was inside a craft according to his hypnotic regression, and he freaked out at the symbols. I also sent it to Randy Anderson. I don't know if you guys saw that episode of this guy who goes deep down into an underground military facility in a naval surface warfare crane and claimed to see off-planet technology. And he freaked out, too, around just the symbols. So make of that what you will. I don't know. Apparently, it's an aluminum alloy that's 3x the hardness of what's used in traditional aerospace. So that's weird. But I don't know. I think Gary Nolan's come out with some interesting debunks of other things claimed. So, and I'd defer to him on that. So another one of these things that who knows? Let's see what happens. But maybe some more resources might help us, figure it out.
Totally. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.
Hey, Jesse.
How's it going?
Yeah, good. Fellow Austinite.
Saw you yesterday.
Yeah.
Elevator.
On the elevator.
Yeah.
I wanted to credit you for your interview with Grush. So one thing that you pulled out of him was that the Manhattan Project security model was kind of overlaid onto the UFO topic.
Yeah.
And the Manhattan Project would have shell companies that would say, oh, we're making industrial chemicals for the war effort, when really they're working on the bomb. Mm-hmm. So, and then we hear about, at the congressional level, we hear about the program, and maybe that their reverse engineering efforts have not really borne fruit. Mm. So my question to you is, could that be a cover program, kind of like the Manhattan Project, and the real program is the Mark McCandlish ARV, Alien Reproduction Vehicle, air show program, right?
Yeah, I'm open to it. Again, you have to think probabilistically about all this stuff. The McCandlish thing is there aren't too many good stories around ARVs that have that are really high credibility. So if I gun to my head, I would say we have very inspired craft that is deep black from the crafts that we've recovered. Maybe we've even worked in certain materials, a la the Corso thing. But do we wholesale have craft, ARVs that we can fly, that we recovered intact and we know how to fly them? My guess would be no. It's like a USB drive to a caveman or whatever. The caveman would have no idea what to do with the USB drive. So that's my base case, and I think there might even be psyops around, saying the ARVs or whatever are, it's just prosaic exotic propulsion, craft that we have, and we're saying they're ARVs or something. But I'm also open to the ARV thing, and I disagree with Eric Davis on all sorts of stuff, and he says we don't have ARVs, so that makes me think maybe we do have ARVs or something.
kind of like Jim Cramer or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like Jim Cramer. Yeah.
Well, you freaked out Michael Stratt because he was friends with Mark McCandlish, and he was white as a ghost when he would talk about that. So who knows? Well,
the Mark McCandlish thing is weird, and that's I have a buddy UAP Gerb who has an amazing channel you should all check out, and he's gone deep on McCandlish stuff, and it's weird. I mean, Brad Sorensen, so this was Norton Air Force Base, 1988 or 9, and there was an air show going on, and Brad Sorensen, who's a mechanical engineer, ends up getting taken to some back of the house, spooky, air show. And he's shown these different ARVs. One is called Mama Bear, one's called Papa Bear, I think Baby Bear as well. They're acorn shaped. What's probably the most interesting thing about that account is that you had prosaic, cameras and other technology patched on to like old shitty jump seats patched on to really sophisticated technology that was seemingly recovered in a crash. McCandlish, so he's friends with Brad Sorensen. Brad Sorensen relays his account to McCandlish. McCandlish is a top aerospace illustrator. He then, illustrates these things. He feels like he's getting harassed. He goes on this long, 30-year speaking tour. A documentary gets made. He ends up committing suicide very, very sadly. And it's a weird story, and I don't know what to make of it. And But you want like 3 or 4 more stories like that, and like you don't really have that with the ARV thing. So I'm open, but I don't know. When you speak to a lot of these aerospace graybeard types, I think if you have this Cold War secrecy era and you're ahead of Russia and China with the retrievals themselves, you can clamp down on all this stuff. But like now we're in a multipolar world, it's heating back up. Maybe you want some surface area around some of these truths or whatever, because you can't get it to work. And so you emphasize the metamaterials, you emphasize certain problems that you have in these sort of limited hangouts, and then you see what comes back as far as talent and their ability to sort of work on these things. But I don't know. Yeah.
Thanks, Jesse.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you, Jesse. Perfect for what I want to ask. I'm concerned about a soft disclosure. Somebody from the administration coming forward and saying, yeah, we have a couple ARVs or someone from Congress. Have you had any thoughts on what I would call soft disclosure?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are open about the fact that they want some sort of managed disclosure. So like Carl Nell gave some presentation at the Soul Foundation. Again, I'm not the one outing this, somebody else did, where he talks about some like 10-year timeline and like a panel that he wants to soften the blow for people. I just interviewed James Fowler from Skywatcher, and he was like, we'll find stuff, and then I want the government to be able to stop us if we found a thing, which is fine, but that's some sort of managed disclosure. And then you have to ask these important questions. Are you working with Arrow? Who are you working with? Is it different Arrow than the Arrow that we all know that sucks? I'm not against those people. I think they're doing what they feel is right, and that's cool. I'm more in the let's not be condescending. Who am I to hold back? Outside of, again, protecting relationships, I'm pretty more on the catastrophic. Let's just let the shit out. Protecting relationships and protecting real defense. I don't want a kid to be able to blow up the world with an H-bomb in his room. I do think the U.S. is a great place to live. I'm all for protecting core military secrets or whatever. But outside of those things, I'm kind of just let it out.
No, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Hey.
Hey.
Huge fan of the show.
Thanks.
What is your best high conviction working model?
Working model of how the world works,
I'd say more specifically the phenomenon.
The phenomena.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a really poor one, and I don't think anybody can answer this question very well. But if somebody were to, first of all, I don't think it necessarily collapses into some neat linear thing. It's probably like a zoo of things. The idea that we have one answer that explains all, you can somehow tie together the Mike Masters Beings from the Future thesis to the Angels and Demons Diana Pasulka thesis, and that somehow pattern matches to the ultra-terrestrial Hal Puthoff thesis, Survivors of Atlantis or whatever. I think that's probably a fool's errand, and it's probably these are linear disparate threads, and reality is just much weirder than we realize. So I don't know. I don't have a great answer to that. But it would be, I did it in an episode with Riz Verk, and I kind of used it as an excuse to insert some of my own ideas along with Riz's amazing ideas of kind of my working model of how reality works. And I talk about the weird simulation quantum indeterminacy thing and high voltage experimentation, and so that's probably the best possible job I can do. But I think physics is information theoretic at its core, and so I think we're sort of rendering things live. And if you really want where the juicy stuff is, it's probably just parapsychology. It's probably a lot is really downstream of consciousness. And then if you say that, you're going to be accused of being woo-woo or whatever. So you have to, if you're trying to shift the consensus, you have to just cover all the UFO stuff prima facie without that. But the parapsychology stuff's really, really fundamental, I think.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Thank you, everybody, so much for coming. And this is awesome.